on this episode of the Dubcast. No intro this week. I don't feel like doing an intro this week because we've got nothing to smile about in our lives. Despite the fact there's a smile on my face right now, it's because I'm happy to talk women's football. But yeah, my name is Poletti. Joining me as always is Burke. I'd ask how you are, Burke, but your 24 hours have been the exact same as my last 24 hours. So we're not gonna go through the song and dance of our big storyline this week, because on behalf of both of us, I just want to say, bleep the ACL. We hate it. We don't want it. As the sooner that humans can evolve the ACL out of their body, the better off we'll be.
I've been saying this. I have been a champion of the we should actually speed up evolution to get rid of the ACL. I've had enough. And I'm sure the players have had enough. I fear the world has had enough of ACLs. Stupid ligament. Do better. Ligament, just in general, do better.
Yep. So for those of you who have missed the news,
If you are blissfully unaware, so sorry about the next 2 minutes.
Yes. Samba, Clough, and Grace Kuilamu have all been announced as being gone for the season after doing their ACLs the most recent weekend of A-League women action. And the number just seems to keep on growing. For the Wellington Phoenix, it's their third departure for the season on the season-ending injury list for an ACL injury, or sorry, a knee injury is what Wellington have termed it, because that sounds slightly nicer than ACL, but you know, this sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Clough obviously went to the USL last year, came back to the A-League women, having a good season at the Central Coast Mariners before she's gone down. Grace Kuilamu was called up to Joe Montemiro's Matildas squad in his first camp, doing some good stuff with the young Matildas as well. I can only imagine that she was going to be a key part of Alex Epakis' plans for the Under-20s Women's Asian Cup coming up later this year after the Senior Asian Cup. And we all know what Samba has done to the league since her arrival. She's brought the crowds with her everywhere she's go, whether that's been at Porora Park or whether that's been on the travelling Phoenix Roadshow across Australia, Perth, Western Sydney. The crowds have turned out to see Samba, and it's just so disappointing that all three of their seasons are done, particularly when they've been such key and instrumental parts of their sides work.
Yeah, just overall, it sucks for every single player. I am really cut about Samba. I'm really cut for Grace Kuilamu because she's such a young star for the league. And yeah, everything you said about Samba being such a great magnet for crowds. Yeah, it's all very bad. The only silver lining is, I guess, that we haven't completely lost Samba yet because she is on a 2-year contract with the Wellington Phoenix. So hopefully fans can keep. Obviously, they're not going to be showing out in the same sort of size that they have been. I wouldn't expect that. But, if they can keep showing up, knowing that she'll be back, and then maybe they can, find another player that they can support as well. 0 out of 10. It was literally just it's like the worst episode of Oprah ever. And you get an ACL injury, and you get an ACL injury, and everyone gets an ACL. Hey,
Oprah, can you keep your ACL injuries, please?
Please.
We don't want them.
Nobody asked. Nobody wants them. Do you accept a refund? I would like 3, at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned the positive of her being on a 2-year deal, so we will hopefully get to see her next season. I think there is one other positive to come from this, and that is there's now enough of a sample size where you can see the impact that Samba has had on the league, the crowds following her, where she goes, which should show the APL, the club decision makers, the ones who were doing the recruiting for these squads, that if you invest in a marquee player or just invest in your squad, period, with a recognizable name, marquee or otherwise, the crowds will come. They will turn up. I'm not saying every club needs to go out and get their own Samba, because I don't know how many
They
Sambas are
should,
running around the pool right
if
now.
they can find
But I
them.
mean, you know, is there anything, stopping them from going out and getting marquees, from other countries or something like that? Countries which have a strong diaspora here in Australia, they could encourage, fans to turn out, and maybe the Asian Cup coming up will provide a good opportunity to do that. To have a look at, some of these, I guess. I don't want to say lesser nations because that feels very, very harsh, but
Smaller.
like the smaller nations, the lower ranked FIFA nations, right? Where it's like, okay, you've got an India, you've got a Bangladesh. We know that there's players in these countries. Can you catapult their appearances at the Asian Cup to recruiting them to come to an A-League Women team next season if they're good enough to, meet the standard of the A-League Women competition? I see no reason why that couldn't happen. Use the Asian Cup as a momentum, to swing forward into this, because we've seen what it can do, with just one player. Imagine if every team had their own Samba. The crowds would fly through the roof again, and it would be, post 2023 Women's World Cup all over again, and a chance to, really build on the momentum of what's been building over the last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So that's our opening segment done. I honestly don't know where to go now after that, because that was just. I know we don't usually like to start with the negativities and the letdowns, but that was
Can you do?
clearly the biggest story of the week.
Yeah.
It's just, what can you do? Indeed. I reckon we'll head to Melbourne now. Chinaza Uchendu scoring her first goal for Melbourne City in a 1-0 win for Melbourne City over Sydney FC. I mean, look, for Melbourne City, they're now up to second on the table. This is going, they're starting to catch up on their games in hand. It's going well for City. This is the Melbourne City we all expected at the start of the season. That's not a surprise. What is a surprise is that Sydney FC continue to...
Be bad?
I mean, you watch this game, Burke. They had chances, they had opportunities, but do they ever really look like scoring?
There was like the tiniest amount of bite, but I didn't at any point think that they were really going to score. And unfortunately for Sydney FC, or maybe unfortunately for Sydney FC fans, this is by far their worst season ever, which is, you know, kind of weird to say, but also, what goes around comes around, etc., kind of thing. Everyone has to be bad at some point. You'd think everyone has to be good at some point, but, Western Sydney Wanderers are there. Sorry. I'm so sorry. That was just an unnecessary drive-by to
We'll get onto the
the
Western
three
Sydney
Western Sydney
Wanderers, don't
Wanderers
worry.
fans. I'm so sorry. But yeah, this is Sydney FC's worst season. I mean, you've got a historic belting from the Wellington Phoenix of all clubs. And then now this, where they've gone their longest stretch scoreless ever. It's now, they're up at 374 minutes of no goals scored. Yeah, even though last year was bad, this is like they hit the bottom of the barrel and they actually were like, you know what? I just found some shovels, guys. Have we considered digging? And now they are digging. Yeah,
I just got that episode of The Simpsons. It's like, no, dig up, stupid.
I
Like,
wish they would. And I don't even like Sydney. No offense to Sydney FC or Western Sydney Wanderers fans. I am simply from Melbourne. I don't even like these teams. Dig up. Dig up. Um, Yeah, I do want to say though, not on Sydney. I'm gonna leave Sydney. I think we can just leave Sydney there. Sydney, the wheels have fallen off. I fear the wheels were maybe never even on in the first place. But on the Melbourne City side of things, you know who had a absolute belter of a game? Melina Mires in goal. Mires every time. Sorry, Mires, my bad. Yeah, she just had save after save. So even though Sydney, you know, did seem a bit like toothless, they did have their moments, but Mires was just not having it, I guess. Yeah, and good for her because she, yeah, absolutely crushed it the whole 90 minutes. I really think it was one of her performances of like all time with Melbourne City. And yeah, it was just really good to watch. I love watching a good goalkeeping performance. There were a couple of them this weekend, I feel, as well, which is a really good thing considering some of the performances we were so lovingly treated to last year via goalkeepers. But we don't need to get into that because now we have good goalkeeping. Um, yeah, now City back up to second on the table, like you were saying, and they do have 3 games in hand on Canberra. So I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Canberra at the top of the table. I think it's so good. I'm I don't know how much longer it's gonna last. Hopefully for a while longer, if not the whole time, because that would be really fun. But I'm not sure how long it's actually gonna last.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like Melbourne City, if they continue on this path, they're probably going to finish premiers again. They're going to, book themselves another Asian Women's Champions League campaign. That being said, and this is nothing against Melbourne City, so if there's any Melbourne City player, club member, staffer, owner listening to this podcast, this is absolutely not a slight against Melbourne City at all. For the love of everything that is good, I need Canberra to win the premiership this season to guarantee that they will be around for another 12 months, because there is absolutely no way the APL can let Canberra fold if they're off to the Asian Women's Champions League. The money is way too big for that not to happen. That might be literally the only thing at this point that ensures Canberra's survival for another 12 months is if they win the premiership. So Melbourne City, I love you. I love all your players. I love the way you're playing football. You need to let Canberra win,
Do
okay?
you like the way Melbourne City is playing football? I don't even think Melbourne City are loving the way that they actually are playing football. Like, yes, they're getting results, but is it the best to watch at all times? Eh, eh. It gets the job done, though. And that's really what matters, isn't it? Yeah, no, you make a really good point. But also, if Western United can find, what was it, 14 something million dollars to save themselves, surely someone can find something for Canberra.
You would like to think so,
I'm
but we've also haven't heard anything about this mysterious ownership that's supposed to have gone on, that Michelle Heyman talked about and others have talked about. Now, I know there was an article in the Canberra Times a couple of weeks ago that suggested that perhaps those owners have gotten cold feet and aren't as committed as they were initially. So the it'd be just probably just be a case of wait and see, as it has been for the last 3 years, as it relates to
someone,
Canberra.
I need someone who, how can I fashion a connection between Canberra United and Alex Morgan? She was saying she wanted to invest in women's sports. I've said it before that she should put money into Canberra United, but now I'm gonna have to do some digging and see what link I can find, just so I can you know, fuel myself with
You
this
need to
pipeline
find an
dream.
obscure you need to find an obscure American who's played in
If
Canberra, who
there's
has a
one
link to a former
thing,
US women's national team player who can get in touch with Alex Morgan.
if there is one thing that Australia is likely to have done, it is have an obscure American play for Canberra United that then somehow knows Alex Morgan. Like, the amount of Americans that have just kind of been here, odd. But, I mean, makes sense at the time. Anyway, we've gotten very sidetracked. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Melbourne City and Sydney
Ah,
FC. Before we move on from this game, look, I'm doing some very bad podcasting here. I'm not going to give an opinion. I'm not going to give a solution. I'm simply going to state the facts, and I'll allow you to draw to your own conclusions. In this game, Claire Corbett made her debut at 15 years old after being added to the squad due to a Mackenzie Hawkesby calf injury. She looked quite good. That'll be the closest thing I get to giving my own opinion. She was the last non-injured or pregnant outfielder to be added to an extended matchday squad this season when that was announced late last week. Sophia Fante, goalkeeper, is now the only player not to have been added to an extended matchday squad, and the only non-injured or pregnant players yet to feature in a matchday squad, yet to see game time, Elise Obadesano and Sophia Fante, both goalkeepers. Sydney are now 40% of the way through their season. They sit second last. They have the lowest goals scored at 5. They have a 2 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses record for 9 points. However, they are only 1 win out of the 6, as Perth and Wellington both have 12 points coming into this weekend's action. They sit 4 points above Western Sydney Wanderers, who are in last on the table. The forwards aren't scoring. Ante Juric's solution last year was putting Mackenzie Hawkesby at striker to kickstart the goal scoring, and she's now out injured. He turned a lot of the squad over in the off-season as a result of their problems in defence and scoring last season, and it's still not working. I'll allow you to draw your own conclusions and your own thoughts and suggestions on how Sydney FC might fix it, but that is all I want to say on that. But anyway, we've now spent enough time talking about Canberra United. We've also spent quite a bit of time already talking about the Western Sydney Wanderers, so I think heading to Western Sydney is a good idea for our next game to cover. Liz Anton scoring in the 9th minute was cancelled out by a Millie Bennett equaliser in the 70th minute to end this game as a 1-1 draw on Saturday afternoon. It was Danica Matos' 100th game for the Western Sydney Wanderers, and she's the first player to do so in the history of the club on the women's side of the thing. A valuable point for the Western Sydney Wanderers, who have struggled, as we've already mentioned. They're sitting now on the bottom still with 5 points, 4 points back of the next closest team in Sydney FC. For Canberra, they are still top of the table, but that gap is being closed down by Melbourne City, and they probably could have used they probably could have used the additional 2 points here, Burke.
yeah, for sure. I do want to feel like I sound like a broken record. Michelle Heyman is so good at football. I mean, this is the kind of play that you get after having spent, decades at like your job. But her instinct on the ball is just unreal. Her instinct off the ball, also incredible, but just, I don't know, the shots that she takes and the way they always look dangerous, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, they definitely could have used the other 2 points, but I'm also quite happy to see Western Sydney Wanderers collect a draw. I think Sham Khamis also had a really good game in goal. A likely thing for her to do. Fork founding kitchen, etc., etc. And yeah, huge congratulations to Danica Matos. I cannot believe she's the first player to reach 100 appearances for Western Sydney. I don't know what that says or doesn't say about Western Sydney. Like you were saying before, you guys can draw your own conclusions. We'll leave that there.
Yeah, we will indeed. I mean, look, they've had some stalwarts at that club. Danica Matos certainly an incredibly, incredibly good player. So maybe it is fitting that she's the one to be the first one to rack up 100 games for the Western Sydney Wanderers. But I think we'll take a look at the Central Coast Mariners now. They were one of the teams to play twice this week, along with Brisbane Roar. So a 3-2 win for the Mariners over Brisbane Roar on New Year's Eve. Isabella Coco DeCipio in the third minute opened the scoring. Grace Kuilamu and Sian Fryer in the 13th and 18th minutes, respectively, gave Brisbane a 2-1 lead before Annalise Rasmussen in the 9th minute of first half stoppage time, followed up by the 55th minute go-ahead goal to make it 3-2 there. And the Mariners followed it up with a 1-0 loss to Adelaide on Sunday afternoon. In Adelaide, Emily Condon with the 47th minute goal there. Look, for me, the Adelaide game for the Central Coast Mariners, it just looked like a side that had played, almost 100 minutes midweek against a very tough Brisbane Roar side, and they just looked run out on their feet for most of this.
Yeah, they did still have plenty of good moments in the game against Adelaide. Izzy Gomez about it and a real highlight. They just couldn't find the back of the net, which, like you were saying, they played a lot of football. I'm not surprised by it. It did kind of feel like it was going to be Adelaide's game as well, which they tend to perform better as well when they play at home. So, yeah, I wasn't too surprised by that. Yeah.
And then Brisbane Roar hosted Wellington, a 2-2 draw off the back of that game. Mania Elliott opened the scoring in the 15th minute. Ashlyn Miller and Eva Piazza then made it 2-1 in the 17th and 34th minutes for the Brisbane Roar before Brooke Nunn in the 98th minute of the game with what A-League socials called a shot, and everyone else, including Brooke Nunn, said otherwise. So not too sure there. But yes, it was a very late equaliser for the Wellington Phoenix.
Don't leave games early, guys. That is all I can say. That game, outside of being one that really affirms that you should not leave early, was really just what if we all took shots from really far away, guys? What if we all tried on goal from really far away? And what if it worked? Is that entire game. I really loved Ava Piazza's goal. That was her first in the A-Leagues in total. And just her reaction to it was really, really good. If you haven't seen it, the goal is great, don't get me wrong, but her reaction to it, I feel, is almost better. So if you haven't seen it, go see that. The Brooke Nunn goal was silly. I don't know how that happened. The Mania Elliott one was also very silly. The Ashlyn Miller goal, I feel, was the only goal that made any sense. Sian Fryer, thank you for your services. She's very good at football.
Yes, she is indeed. There's two things that I wanted to highlight in particular from this game, and sadly both involve Chloe Lincoln. So we'll start with the Brooke Nunn equalising goal first. Chloe Lincoln completely misjudged this shot, and it sailed over her head into the goal. It completely misjudged this cross. It sailed over her head and into the goal. Look, Chloe Lincoln is a tall goalkeeper. There's absolutely no reason she shouldn't have been able to take this like a standard AFL mark, pick up, grab it, and away we go. Brisbane Roar walk away with a 2-1 win. Yeah. But so I don't know what was going on there. We know Chloe Lincoln is a good goalkeeper. She's been selected for the Matildas for a reason. The first goal I want to highlight in particular as well, because Chloe Lincoln. Now, admittedly, I said this at the time. I thought she was so far out of position that it wasn't funny, and to be fair, she was out of position, and I did kind of put her at fault for this goal. But then I spoke to our round ball colleague Will Booth, who is a goalkeeper, who gave a number of reasons as to why she wasn't necessarily the one at fault for this particular goal going in, and we are hoping to have a video out on that at some point in the next couple of weeks. A little bit of tactical analysis there explaining exactly why. So you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the little notification bell so you can get notified when we do drop these sorts of things, so you can have a look at them. Of course, you can listen right here on the Dubcast as well, and we'll be able to tell you when it drops and we'll send you to the right place if it drops. We are working on it. It is the first time we've attempted to do something like this, so whether or not it pulls off will be another question entirely. But yeah, maybe Chloe Lincoln wasn't as at fault for the goal as I initially thought, Burke.
Yeah, look, I'm not even gonna try and pretend like I know. I've never been a goalkeeper, and I thank God for that because that job is stupid hard, stupid hard. But yeah, like
As
you
someone
said,
who has been a goalkeeper, yes.
yeah, like you've said, we know she's a good goalkeeper. I guess this was just, I'm hoping at least that this was just an off night for her. Yeah, Brisbane absolutely should have won this game, but Brooknun said otherwise, I guess. Um, yeah, not much else you can do. It's just it genuinely both of the Wellington goals felt like freak accidents.
Yeah, they're certainly not the sort of goals that you that you draw up on the tactics board when you're doing your little pre-game huddle. You certainly go, right, we're going to do this. We're going to hope that goalkeeper has an error here, and we're going to hope the goalkeeper has an error here, and that's how we're going to score our 2 goals, and we just need to be defensive enough to not give up 2. That's certainly not the way that you draw it up,
No.
in the pre-game. It's in the pre-game meeting or at training. The last game to talk about here, Perth versus Newcastle, is a 1-0 win for Perth. Izzy Dalton's goal in the 8th minute gave Perth the victory late on Saturday night, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Perth have now won 3 of their last 4 games. All of those wins have been 1-0 wins, and the lone loss in there was a 3-1 loss to Melbourne City. I mean, look, you get the 3 points any way you can, but you kind of want to see more than just 1-0 here from the Glory, don't you?
Yeah, but look, I will take Perth being good. Like I will take it. I think that goal was really, really nice as well. It was really well worked. Shout out Susan Fonsoncam. My stocks, they are rising. Yeah, I think she's great. I feel really, really good as well for Izzy Dalton being the one to score the goal as the captain for Perth because that is not an easy job being Perth's captain, considering some of the results that they've fielded. And yeah, I feel like Perth definitely feel it themselves, but they're a pretty hard done by team, even before like Wellington came into the mix with so much flying to be done for them to play. So they don't have it the easiest. But yeah, I was really happy that it was Izzy Dalton to get the one on the board.
Yeah, it's certainly something that she deserves. Perth quietly ticking along out west as we've touched on, 3 1-0 victories. So it's now 4 wins, 0 draws, and 5 losses. So they either win or they lose this season for
Fair
Perth.
enough.
And rounding out the top 6 with 12 points behind Wellington Phoenix on goal difference. So I mean, yeah, it was a very interesting week of football. Like, I mean, Adelaide won, Perth won, Sydney
Brisbane,
continued to lose. Like, Brisbane had some mixed
Brisbane
results as
had
well. The
whatever's
Mariners won,
going on
Mariners
there.
lost. Like,
Everyone's look, it's the weird break after Christmas when no one really knows like what's going on. And yeah, we still haven't, no one's really settled back into like to work. Everyone's just kind of, that like weird space. You just kind of don't really know what day it is. I mean, I don't really know what day it is in general, but like you really don't know what day it is. Yeah, I
So
think
everyone says that, but like, I mean, I never know what day it is in general.
exactly
But
same.
like, I also just, I always know what's like. I always have some semblance of going on.
Mm-mm.
Like everyone's just like, oh, you collapsing on the couch, you're watching Test match cricket. Like no, that's never been me. Like I always have some semblance of what's going on. So I
No,
don't. I've never quite understood that.
I I I do see what you're saying, but I really have no sense of what's going on because I work in retail. So you're not allowed
That
to
is fair.
have any understanding of what's going on, otherwise you will recognize what is happening to you.
You'll gain sentience.
And you can't do that. You must keep going.
Uh, but what we do know is going on is the upcoming round of A League Women action tonight. If you're listening to this on Friday, it will be Sydney versus Adelaide, kicking off at 7 p.m. local time, 6:30 p.m. Adelaide time at Leichhardt Oval, I believe, off the top of my head. Yes, it is Leichhardt Oval. So Leichhardt Oval has been
Round
fixed up.
fixed.
Whatever the issue was has been solved. Also on Friday night, Perth Glory host the Western Sydney Wanderers out at the Sam Kerr Football Centre. That is a 7 p.m. local kickoff, 10 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. On Saturday, Wellington Phoenix then host Melbourne City, 4 p.m. local time, 2 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time at Pororoa Park, before Newcastle battle the Mariners at 7 p.m. local time. That game originally scheduled for 5 p.m. but has been delayed 2 hours due to the heat that is currently gripping most of Australia. Right call, most definitely made there. Rounding out on Sunday at 5 p.m. local time, at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time in Brisbane. It'll be Melbourne Victory hosting the Brisbane Roar at the home of the Matildas. The Mariners will be without Izzy Gomez due to suspension for yellow card accumulation. Burke, which of the 5 matches are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Well, considering what we've said, this might be the game that Perth managed to score more than one goal in. Shem Karmas is a very good goalkeeper, though.
Perth beating the Western Sydney Wanderers 3-1 earlier this season. Now Sham Karmas was suspended for that game. It was Bree Edwards in goal. So maybe Sham
Could be.
Karmas makes it a little bit harder for Perth to score, but they've already shown that they can score multiple goals against the Western Sydney Wanderers this season.
Otherwise, the Adelaide Sydney game should be interesting. Mostly, I just want to see if they actually are allowed onto Leichhardt Oval because I feel like that's a really quick fix. So we'll see what happens there. Um, Good luck to Sydney, is all I can say.
When these two sides met earlier this season, it was a scoreless draw in Adelaide. My pick of the bunch is Wellington versus Melbourne City, actually. These two teams played a very good game in Melbourne earlier this year, which had a 1-0 scoreline in favour of Melbourne City. Rebecca Stott scoring the only goal, because of course it was Rebecca Stott
Of course it
who
was.
scored the only goal of the game. And for Wellington, as the injuries pile up, I'm very interested to see how Bev Priestman sort of fixes the issues around that. The Wellington Phoenix did make a signing as well. They signed Michaela Woods, who's spent some time in the US college system as well. So, we saw Emma Peinenberg get announced and then straight onto the team sheet. So it'll be interesting to see if the same happens for Woods. As the last thing I want to talk about here today on the Dubcast is we're actually going to go to the NWSL for a moment. I want to talk about a coach signing that was made. So the regular season champions, the Kansas City Current, were looking for a new coach after Vlatko Andonovski. If you're not familiar with the NWSL, but you're familiar with that name, Andonovski, the former coach of the United States women's national team, has stepped down at the end of the most recent NWSL season from his role as head coach of the Kansas City Current to become the club's sporting director. They've now announced that their new coach is Chris Armas. Who is Chris Armas, you might ask? That is a very good question. He is the former coach of the Colorado Rapids in the MLS and had a less than stellar record as coach of the Colorado Rapids. In fact, if you actually look at his coaching record, it doesn't make for great reading. He's predominantly been an assistant coach throughout his tenure, only having a few head coaching roles. If you look at that, so he was coach of the New York Red Bulls for 2.5 years, 33 wins, 11 draws, 27 losses, 46% winning percentage. He was coach at Toronto FC for 6 months, where they went 2-3-10 for 13%. No wonder he only lasted 6 months in that role. And then at the Colorado Rapids, 30-17-35 for a 36% win percentage, 38% win percentage for his career as a head coach, 65-31 and 72 from 168 games. So very much a large sample size at this point. He's been an assistant coach at the Chicago Fire, the Adelphi Panthers, the New York Red Bulls, Manchester United, and Leeds United. The latter, actually, most of those as men's jobs. So he has very little experience in women's football and is now stepping into coach the reigning regular season champions of the NWSL. Stop giving mediocre men jobs in women's football.
We've seen this
Please.
one before. Well, maybe you haven't. Maybe you, dear listener, are newer to this and you haven't experienced the horrors that can happen in these situations. Just take a little look at the history of England women's national team. You should also give Canada a look. Actually, that was fun. Do you remember when that guy threw his bronze medal into the crowd after they won it? That was fun.
Was that John Herdman?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, stop doing this. They do this in every women's sports. Like they've been doing it in the AFL women's, with particular sides, and I will name them because I don't like them. St Kilda.
That was Nick Del Santo, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, stop doing this. Stop doing this. Stop using the women's game as a springboard for men. Obviously, it's not really a springboard for this guy because he's worked in the men's game before. But, like, stop doing this. You could give a female coach a shot. I wouldn't even care if she was bad. I really wouldn't. But yeah, I wonder if he'll make it 6 months with this, because I feel every coach that has coached different like men's and women's, or coaches that are male and have predominantly coached in the women's game, they always talk about how different it is.
Yep.
So, because, usually the thing that I always hear the most is why. Like women want to know why. Why are we doing this? Why are you explaining that why are we doing this drill? Why are you doing that drill? Why am I playing this position? So I hope he's got answers. Good luck. Good luck. I wonder if Vlacto will be waiting in the wings to just, step back in if necessary. Probably not, because he's become the global sporting director for Kansas City, whatever that means. But, maybe he can. They talk about ghost riders. Can we get a ghost coach?
Yeah, so just for clarification, his coaching job of the Adelphi Panthers, which is the Adelphi University team, was as the women's coach at that program between 2011 and 2015. But other than that, all his coaching experience has been in men's football. But my point still stands. Stop hiring mediocre men to coach women's teams. We don't need it. We don't want it. Hire women's coaches. how hire men's coaches if they're qualified. Got no issue there. This isn't a case of you men. No, like it is not the case here. If the men deserve the jobs, then happy for them to have the jobs. But
I'm
mediocre
not.
men don't necessarily deserve them. So if you liked that little discussion, please let us know. If you didn't like it, please let us know as to whether or not we continue, like we add these sorts of things into the Dubcast going forward. A little segment to take a look at what's going on around the world of women's football as well. But Burke, it's another week done and dusted, and plenty of good A-League women action to tide us over this weekend.
And I'm looking forward to it, as always.
And we'll be back next week to wrap it all up for you. For Burke, my name is Poletti. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.